Hello students, this is Taranum Jahan and I'm here again with you all people in order to start the new chapter from the civics, that is a chapter 4 of your political science. So let's begin with a new chapter. So here the new chapter from your political sciences, working of institution. This is the chapter 4 from your political science for the class 9. So here these are the key points or the main content you can say that we are going to discuss under this chapter, that is the office memorandum, Mandal commission, then who are the decision makers, opposition against the Mandal commission, need for political institution, why do we need a parliament, two houses, that is Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha we are going to discuss over here, functions of the parliament we are going to discuss, then the political executive and the permanent executive, the difference between this even we are going to see, then the prime minister and the cabinet ministers, then president and the powers of the president we are going to discuss, how the president is appointed we are going to discuss over here, then the judiciary power, that is the Supreme Court and the High Court, how the judges are appointed, how they can be removed, each and everything in detail we are going to study about the each content in detail in one by one slides. So let's begin with a new chapter, working of institution. Office memorandum, which is called as OM over here. So this office memorandum was first issued on August 13th, 1990 by saying the order was passed. Actually, the order was announced as a majority policy decision was taken by the government. It said that 27% of the vacancies in the civil post and the services under the government of India should be reserved for the socially and educationally backward classes, which was called as SEBC by the government. Now, it was not new, though the majority policy decision was taken that on August 13, 1990, but this, in order to look after the socially backward classes and the scheduled caste people, in order to give them the importance and the equality, the struggle was there after the independence. So here if we'll see that it is not around 1990 after the independence how people started working after the formation of the government, how people started working in order to improve the condition of the socially backward classes. So here the government of India, they appointed a second backward class commission in 1979 and it was headed by BP Mandal. That is the reason why this memorandum, the office memorandum meeting, was called as Mandal Commission. It was asked to determine the criteria that to identify the socially and educationally backward classes in India, and he recommended that the step has to be taken in order to improve their condition. So this commission, it gave its report in 1980 and made many recommendations in order to improve their condition. So one of this was that the 27% of the government job should be reserved for socially and educationally backward classes. Now, after this report was submitted in 1980, the benefit of the job reservation extended from SC to ST, and then the third category, that is called as socially and educationally backward classes, which was introduced by the government. So this report and the recommendation were discussed in the parliament many times. Many parties and the parliamentarians kept demanding for the implementation of the demand, but it did not happen. Then in the Lok Sabha election in 1989, Janata Dal promised that if voted to power, if I come into the power, I will definitely implement the Mandal Commission report. So the Janata Dal did form the government. After this election, its leader was VP Singh and he became the prime minister. And after becoming the prime minister, he made several developments. And after that, many of the development has been taken place, and finally he implemented the official memorandum, that is nothing but the number, which was born on April 13, 1990. after implementation of this Mandal Commission, now what was the reaction of the people? Actually, it was the most hot debated issue of the country, which was actually discussed in all the newspaper, magazines, on the tea shop, coffee shops, everywhere the people were discussing about this Mandal Commission. Many were against it and many were for it. So there were merits and demerits too for this Mandal Commission. Many thought that now this will definitely affect the job opportunities, though we are much educated, though we are much qualified, even then will not get the job, because now the jobs have been reserved for this socially educated and backward classes. And many felt that because of this Mandal Commission, the inequality between the people were there, that this will be completely removed and they will definitely get a chance in order to come and reach the top of the society. So there were the merits and the demerits. The people were having both positive and negative thinking regarding the Mandal Commission. Now, as this topic was like the widespread among the people, what the people did, they protested and they counter protest, some of which were completely violent. So the Supreme Court of India bunched all these cases together, and this case was known as Indra Swahni and the other was known as the Union of India case. So here what exactly happened? By majority of the Supreme Court judges in 1992 declared that this order of Government of India, that is on the Mandal Commission, is valid one. But it also said that you have to make certain changes in them so that the people don't turn out to be a violent one. Because they said that well-to-do a person among the backward classes should be excluded from getting the benefit of reservation. So some of the beneficia that you people are giving as per the reservation, why don't you exclude them some and make the changes and again get this Mandal Commission? So, according to the Department of the Personnel and the Training issued another office memorandum on September 8, 1993. Now, what do you mean by political institution? We need this institution because this institution take decisions and make rules and regulation for proper administration. So in India, the political institutions are arranging and carrying all the tasks of the country in a format in a formative way. That is the reason why in modern democracy, this arrangement, the format of rules and regulation, is known as an institution. Working with this institution is not an easy task because it has abundant of rules and regulation which has to be followed by each and every person, whoever is working in that administration. So here this can bind the hands of the leader. Binding hands of the leader means that in order to follow all the rules and regulation as per the administration, when they are making a law or when they are making any bill, they have to see what the other administration are saying. If the bill has been passed, they have to see what executive is saying, what legislature is saying, what parliament is going to say. So it is a time consuming, it takes a lot of time. So this institute involve, in order to take a proper and a small decision, this institution involves meeting, committees, routine. So this often leads to a delay and complication while making any kind of a law or any kind of a decision has to be taken. So some of these delays and complications are sometimes very useful because they provide an opportunity for the wider set of a people to be consulted with an any decision. So the more the delay is, the more consultation will be there. So we'll reach to at any decision by the consulting of more number of the people. So they provide an opportunity to the wider set of a people to be consulted to reach at any decision. Who are these people who sits and take the decisions? Who are the decision makers? The decisions are made by the governments, like the President of India, who is the head of the state, and all the decisions are taken in his name because he is the one who signs the bill. Then the Prime Minister is the head of the government, and actually he exercises the governmental power. Decisions are taken in the cabinet meeting, whereas the parliament consists of two houses, whereas Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha, and the Prime Minister must have the majority in the Lok Sabha. So he is going to win the majority votes. Whoever from these two houses have been given to any of the person, whoever got the majority vote will only get the seat of prime minister from the both the houses. So these are the people who sits for the decision making. That is the president, prime minister, Lok Sabha, Rajya Sabha, and the parliament. Parliament consists of both the houses, Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha, and parliament himself is a legislature. So here legislature is even sitting with the parliament. You can say that even judiciary is sitting over here. So prime minister is also sitting for the decision making. So these are the decision maker. When any of the decision has been taken for the country, these are the people who sits and have a meeting. Even the cabinet ministers, they even sit for the meeting. So all the people, they come up. So each and every set of cabinet ministers, prime minister, president, they have their own set of rules and regulation, and according to those set of rules and regulations they have to take the decision. That is the reason why it is time consuming one. So these are the decision makers. Now let's see the branches of the government. Here the branches of the government is nothing but the three main heads where the powers have been distributed. We always follow the federal form of government where the powers have been distributed. So here the federal form of government is nothing but the way the powers is distributed among the parliament, executive and judiciary. Now what all the powers these people are enjoying, what kind of a powers these people are having in their hand, how they are using their powers in order to take the decision, in order to make the law. Let's see one by one. We'll discuss about the parliament in a separate side heading, executive under the separate, and judiciary under the separate side heading. So let's see all the branches of the government separately. So in India, these are the three important political institutions, that is the legislature, executive and judiciary. Now legislature is nothing but the parliament. Here the prime minister and the cabinet minister, they take all the important policy decisions. Whereas in the executive are the civil servants working together are responsible for taking steps to implement the minister's decision. So whatever the decisions have been taken in the legislature, now they will take the steps how to implement these decisions or law, whatever have been prepared in legislature. Then the judiciary sees that this is the Supreme Court is an institution where the disputes between the citizen and the governments are finally settled. So now here the legislature makes the law, executive it implements the minister's law, and judiciary checks whether these laws have been properly implemented or not, whether they have been violated by the government or whether they are violated by the citizen. They have to check this. So the judiciary is having the job in order to check whether the law which have been made by the legislature and implemented by the executive are properly worked by the citizens and the government or not. Now, why do we need a parliament? Parliament is a supreme political authority which works on the behalf of the people. Now, how this parliament is working on the behalf of the people, let's see one by one. Parliament is a final authority of the making law in any country, because all the laws are made, have been discussed with both the houses, then the law has been implemented. So here the final authority of making law is in the hands of the parliament. And parliament, it also exercises the some control over the government, because whatever the decisions have been taken in the parliament, or whatever decisions have been taken by any of the government, they cannot take without the permission of the parliament. So the decisions of the government should be have the support of the parliament. So it is having a direct control on the government. Parliament also controls the money matter. All the money matters are under the hands of the parliament. Whose money matters? The government's monies matter. Then the parliament is the highest forum of discussion for the debates and the public issues and the national policy in any country. Now in a parliament we have two houses. That is, first is Rajya Sabha, which is also called as the upper chamber, and here the people, those who are sitting over here, are having the power of the Council of States. They are also called as the Council of States. And the second house is the Lok Sabha, which is also called as the lower chamber or the lower house. This is called as the House of the People. Now, why this is called as the House of the People? Because we the people are directly electing the members of the Lok Sabha who are representing as a member of parliament. So we elect these Lok Sabha members and they sit as the members of the parliament in the parliament. So here they are directly elected by the people. All the members of the Lok Sabha are directly elected by the people, because in each and every constituency you have an election, that is Lok Sabha election, and this constituency, each and every constituency represent one MP from each constituency, each district, and each people, those who are having the majority votes, whoever has won with the majority votes in the Lok Sabha election will sit in the parliament as a member of the parliament, and these member of the parliament will elect the members of Rajya Sabha. That is the reason why they are called as the Council of States, because all the states members of the parliament, or all the state constituencies members are going to elect the members of Rajya Sabha. So that is the reason why they are a council of states. So here the two houses, the Rajya Sabha, that is the upper house, Lok Sabha, the lower house. Lok Sabha has a direct elections and they are elected by the people, and Rajya Sabha they are elected by the members of the parliament of Lok Sabha, and these are called as the council of states. So here Lok Sabha, under the Lok Sabha they have a direct election, and we are the people who select the members of this Lok Sabha. And the maximum strength of the house is 552, out of which 530 are elected by us, and the remaining 20 members are from the union territories. Now what is this union territories? Union territory is nothing but the Dadra and Nagar Haveli, Daman and Diu, Lakshadweep, Andaman and Nicobar Island, where the government is having a direct control over here. So these are the places which are called as union territories. So out of these places 20 members have been selected, and the 2 members are nominated by the President of India from Anglo-Indian community. This is nothing but the tribal people, and the present membership of the Lok Sabha is 545. And apart from this, Lok Sabha power. Lok Sabha exercises more power in the money matter. Once the Lok Sabha passes the budget of the government or any other money related law, the Rajya Sabha cannot reject it. The Rajya Sabha can only delay it by 14 days or suggest the changes in it, but they cannot reject it. The Lok Sabha may or may not accept these changes. Most importantly, the Lok Sabha controls the Council of Ministers. Now, who are these Council of Ministers? This is nothing but the Rajya Sabha. Only a person who enjoys the support of the majority of the members in the Lok Sabha is appointed, that is the Prime Minister. If the majority of the Lok Sabha members say that we have no confidence in the Council of Ministers, all the ministers, including the Prime Minister, must quit. Then the Rajya Sabha does not have this kind of powers like how the Lok Sabha is enjoying. Now Rajya Sabha, or you can say the Council of States. It is usually elected indirectly by the members of the parliament. The most common work of this second house, that is the Rajya Sabha, is to look after the interest of various states, regions or federal units like both state and government. So it has not more than 250 members. So the members are less than compared to the Lok Sabha. 12 of Rajya Sabha members are nominated by the president, those who are having the huge knowledge of literature, art, science and service, because we require much intelligent people even in the Rajya Sabha in order to take the decisions regarding the states, regions, because these people are having the right to take the decision regarding the interest of the various states, regions. So they should be very intelligent enough in order to have a very good knowledge in the field of literature, art, science, services. And Rajya Sabha is a permanent body. 1/3 of the members retires every 2 years. And at present, 245 members of Rajya Sabha is distributed among different states and union territories. Apart from this, Rajya Sabha and Lok Sabha both can introduce ordinary bill, whereas Rajya Sabha cannot introduce the money bill. to introduce the money bill, the power is only in the hands of Lok Sabha. And if the money bill or a money related bill is been passed by the Lok Sabha, the Rajya Sabha is not having the power to cancel it or reject it. Apart, they can keep that bill only for the 14 days, and after that they have to return it to the Lok Sabha. If they want, they can make any amendments or any changes, but they cannot reject it. They can ask them that so and so points are not being accepted by us, you should make certain changes, but they cannot reject the bill of Lok Sabha. And apart from this, as I already told you, that the executive powers, here the Lok Sabha is having all the powers. They can remove the ministry by saying just that we are not having the confidence on the Council of States. So by this, the complete Rajya Sabha and the Prime Minister will definitely will quit. That means that it will be completely dissolved, and again the elections will be held. So this power is not having with the Rajya Sabha. They cannot end up the ministry but just by saying no confidence motion. But this power is there within the hands of the Lok Sabha. They can end the ministry just by saying no confidence motion. So this is the difference between the Lok Sabha and the Rajya Sabha. We are having the next slide completely regarding the differences between the Rajya Sabha and Lok Sabha. Concept of Rajya Sabha and Lok Sabha will be more clear if you read this differences. So you just go through, because already I have explained that in the slides of Lok Sabha and the Rajya Sabha. The same has been written over here. Just compare it, what the powers of the Lok Sabha is having, what the powers the Rajya Sabha is enjoying, and just compare the powers from each other and just get to know that which house is more powerful than compared to the other house. Now let's see the function of parliament, that is nothing but the Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha, how these people are working together. As you all know that the Lok Sabha is a complete different house and the Rajya Sabha is complete different house. They don't sit together. They sit in the separate houses. Discussions have been done in the separate houses. But in what cases they can sit together? Let's see. Any ordinary law need to be passed by both the houses. As you know that any ordinary law which has been made in the parliament, both the houses, they have to see together, and they are having an equal power in order to look after that law. But if there is a difference between the two houses, if these people are not accepting anything on any matter, then any differences is there, that some of the members are saying that we are not accepting what this Lok Sabha has sent this bill, we are not at all accepting this law. So if there is such kind of a differences between these two houses, the final decision is taken in a joint session in which members of both the houses sit together. Because of the large number of the members, the view of the Lok Sabha is likely to be prevail in such a meeting. So mostly this meeting has been done in order to get into a final decision. So here you can say that Lok Sabha controls the complete Council of Ministers through no confidence motion. Even this has been said to you all people. But just by saying the no confidence motion, the Lok Sabha can completely dissolve the Rajya Sabha, and Rajya Sabha is not having that power. So here there are the certain differences in the functions of the parliament too, how the joint session take place, in what kind of a bill has been passed. So on many matters, Lok Sabha enjoys more power than compared to the Rajya Sabha, and Rajya Sabha does not enjoy as much powers that Lok Sabha is enjoying. Executive, again this is divided into political executive and permanent executive. Now what are this executive? What are the functions or the powers of the executive? At the different level of any government, we find functionaries who take day-to-day decisions, but they do not exercise supreme power on the behalf of the people. Like how the parliament is having, they are having a supreme power on the behalf of the people. These people are taking the decision, making the law on the behalf of the people. But even he is implementing the executive. The same laws which have been made in the parliament have been implemented by the executive. But still, they do not exercise supreme power on the behalf of the people. So all those functionaries are collectively known as an executive. Now, executive are of two types, political executive and permanent executive. Now, political executive is one that is elected by the people for a specific period of time, that is for the period of 5 years. These are called as political executive. For example, we are having our political leader who is appointed only for 5 years. Then permanent executive. The people that are appointed on the long-term basis, these people are called as permanent executive. Or the civil services. The person working in the civil services are called as civil servants like IPS, IAS, etc. Now here again the differences between the political executive and the permanent executive has been given, so that with the comparison you will understand the differences as the explanation has been given. So how to write in an answer form when any of the differences has been given. So even the example I am giving you, so that it will be very easy for you all people to form the answers. So if you will read the differences, you will understand what exactly the difference between the political and the permanent executive is. Now let's see about Prime Minister. So here the Prime Minister is the most important political institution in the country. And who appoints the Prime Minister? The President. But the President cannot appoint anyone he or she likes. The President appoints the leader of the majority party or the leader of a coalition party. Now what is a coalition party? Many parties forming one big party is called as a coalition party. So whoever is a majority leader of that party will be selected as a Prime Minister. Now the prime, in case of no single party, if take it an example, like if any of the party is not at all getting any majority, like there is a draw, so the president appoints a person which is most likely to secure a majority support. Might be who is very famous among the people. This is a chance that if this person would have not been standing, again this person must have won. So in that way he makes a choice that might be this person must have secured the majority if there was not a draw. So the president, according to that, according to the famous among the people, he selects the majority person and as a prime minister. So the Prime Minister does not have a fixed tenure. He continues to be in the power as long as he remains the leader of the majority party or a coalition party. The President appoints other ministers, that is, other ministers on the advice of the Prime Minister. Now, the ministers are usually from the party or the coalition that has a majority in the Lok Sabha. So these are appointed by the Prime Minister, because now Prime Minister will select that from this coalition party or from the majority party who are the people who can come and join as a ministers over there, the Council of Ministers like. So who will appoint this? On the advice of the Prime Minister, President appoints those ministers. And the Prime Minister is free to choose the ministers as long as they are the members of the Parliament. So sometimes a person who is not a member of the Parliament can also become a minister. But such a person has to get elected to one of the house of the Parliament within that 6 months of appointment as a minister. Then only he will be selected as a minister by the Prime Minister. So here these are certain things which the Prime Minister got the powers, like how he can select the minister on the advice of the Prime Minister, how the President is going to select the ministers, and there are certain rules and regulations that he can select the ministers, even the person who is not in the ministry or from the party, any person from the outside the party, but there are the chances that he should be at least be selected as the minister from any one house, that is Lok Sabha or the Rajya Sabha, within that period of 6 months. So then only the minister can appoint him as a minister or a council of minister. So now what are the powers of the Prime Minister? As a head of the government, the Prime Minister has a wide-ranging power. He is the head of the cabinet meetings. Whatever the meetings have been done by the Council of Ministers, he is the head because he is a majority leader. He coordinates the work of different departments. His decisions are final in the case of disagreement arises between the departments. So he exercises general supervision of different ministers, and all ministers works under his leadership. The Prime Minister distributes and redistributes the work to the ministers. He also has the power to dismiss the minister. When the Prime Minister quits, the entire ministries quit. The Prime Minister controls the cabinet and the parliament through the party. The Council of Ministers. The Council of Ministers is the official name for the body that includes all the ministers. It usually has 60 to 80 ministers of different tasks. Among them is the first is cabinet ministers. Now these cabinet ministers are the top level ministers and has many important functions as a part of their role. So these cabinet ministers along with the prime minister, they sit and form a main decision making group within the executive government, which is called as the cabinet. This cabinet minister's roles includes directing government policy and making decisions about the national issues, spending lot of time discussing the current national problem and how this can be solved, present bills, proposed law from their government departments. All these things are being discussed by the cabinet ministers. That is the reason why the cabinet is called as the inner ring of the council of ministers. And usually these cabinet ministers comprise of 20 ministers. So we have discussed on the council of ministers. The first was the cabinet minister. Now the second is the minister of the state with the independent in charge. Now these minister of the states which have been independent charge are usually in charge of small ministries. They can participate in the cabinet meeting only when they are specially invited. Otherwise they have to look after the small ministries. Then comes the minister of state. These minister of states are attached to and required to assist the cabinet ministers. They are just an assistant to the cabinet ministers. So here if you know that every ministers have a secretary who are called as civil servants. These secretaries provide a necessary background information to the ministers to take decisions. So the cabinet as a team is assisted by the cabinet secretariats, because since it is not practical for all the ministers to meet regularly and discuss everything, so the decisions are taken in the cabinet meetings. That is why parliamentary democracy in most countries is often known as cabinet form of government. Now let's see the president. How the president is elected first you should know, then we'll see the powers of the president. Now this president is not elected directly by the people. He is elected by the members of the parliament and the elected members of the legislative assemblies, that are MLAs. But the main thing is that the candidate who is standing for the post of the president, he has to get the majority of the votes in order to win the elections. To ensure that the president of India can be seen to be represent the entire nation, he should win with the majority of the vote that has been given by the MPs and the MLAs to the president. Now let's see the powers of the president. So in order to understand the powers of the president, I will divide these powers into two settings, like how the powers in the executive powers of the president and the legislature in the parliament, how the president enjoys the legislative powers. So let's see the first executive power of the president. Under the executive, he is the head of the union administrator. All the executive orders are issued in the names of president. Appointments of officials of the states, like all the appointments are made by the president, like the appointments of the prime minister, the appointment of council of minister, the chief justice, the judge of the supreme court and the high court, the governor of the state, the chairman and the member of the UPSC, and the auditor, chairman and the member of the planning commission. All these members are appointed by the president. So this is the executive power of the president. And if we see the legislative power of the president addresses the session of the parliament. Parliament is nothing but, if you can say, both the houses. Parliament in the sense Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. So the president has a power to address either of the house of the parliament at any time. And he has a power to dissolve the Lok Sabha and can order for the fresh election. He nominates 12 members to the Rajya Sabha, and no bill can become a law without the assent and the signature of the president. So these are the legislative power of the president. So all the international treaties and the agreements are made in the name of president. The president is the supreme commander of the defense force of India too. So these are the powers of president. Now let's see the limitation of the powers of the president. What are the limitations to the power of the president? Here the president is a head of the state and not the head of the government. So therefore he exercises only the nominal power, and that too on the advice of the council of minister. Now the president can ask the council of minister if any of the advice has been given by the council of minister to the president, and if the president asks the council of minister to just have a look at the advice and just make certain corrections, and if the same advice without any corrections has been again kept towards the president, then he or she has to agree to those advice of the council of minister. He is bound to do it. So this is the limitation. He has to listen to the council of minister if again the same advice has been given without any correction. And a bill passed by the parliament becomes a law only after the president gives the assent, isn't it? But if the president wants to delay that bill for some time and send the bill back to the parliament for reconsideration, and but if the parliament passes the bill again without the reconsideration, without any checking and all, then again without asking them for a reconsideration for the twice, he or she has to sign that bill. So this is the limitation of the power in the case of if you say that he is just a head of the state, not the government. He cannot control the government. That is the reason why he has to listen what the council of ministers are saying. He has to listen what the government is saying. That is the main prime minister who is the head of the party. So here there are certain limitations even to the power of the president. I have already discussed this under the powers of the president, that the appointments that are made by the president of India. He or she appoints the Chief Justice of India, the judges of the Supreme Court and the High Court of the states. He appoints the Prime Minister of India, and the person should win with the majority. He should have a majority, only then he will appoint the Prime Minister. On the advice of the Prime Minister, he appoints the governor of the states. Then he appoints the election commissioner and the ambassador to the other countries. As I have already told you that who appoints the Prime Minister? The President. But how he appoints the Prime Minister? Only the person who got the majority votes in the Lok Sabha, only that person will be selected as a Prime Minister by the President. And if in the case of coalition, if any of the party, all the party member, those who are agreeing to be the so and so person to be a majority one, then only he will select that person as a Prime Minister. But there are certain cases where there is no party or a coalition gets a majority in the Lok Sabha. If such a case is there, that when no other party gets a majority and not even in the coalition party gets a majority, then how the president is going to select a prime minister? So under this case, this president, he exercises the discretion. Now what is this discretion? Under this, the president appoints a leader. According to his opinion, he must have got the majority votes in the Lok Sabha. So just according to his opinion, he just asks one person to stand. And in such a case, the president can ask a newly appointed prime minister even to prove the majority support in the Lok Sabha. And he gives a specified time. In that specified time, he has to prove that he can get the majority support in the Lok Sabha. And if he is able to prove the majority support, then he will be selected as a prime minister. So this is called as the exercising of discretion. Now the next is the judiciary. All the courts at the different level in a country put together are called as judiciary. So the Indian judiciary consists of the Supreme Court for the entire nation and the High Court in the state, and district court and the other courts at the local level. So the Supreme Court controls the complete judicial administration in the country. Its decisions are binding on all the other courts of the country. Whatever the decisions have been taken by the Supreme Court should be followed by all the other level of the courts. Now let's see the powers of judiciary. The judiciary of India is one of the most powerful judiciary in the world. And the Supreme Court of India controls the complete judicial administration. Now let's see the functions of the judiciary. How it settles the disputes. It settles the disputes between the citizens, it settles the disputes between the citizen and the government, it settles the disputes between the one state to the other state, it settles the disputes between the government and the union uh, and the state level. Now you see that how these people they enjoy the powers. They are free from the legislature and judiciary. This means that the judges they do not act on the direction of the government. No one can say that you have to give the judgment as per our wish. No government can say this to the judges. So they are just free from the government and they cannot give the hearing as per the government wishes. Now, because in India we have free the judiciary from the legislature and the executive, that is the reason why we say that we have the division of the power and no one can enjoy their powers as a monarch over here. No one can be a dictator over here because we have divided the powers in such a way that each and everyone is answerable to each other. So that is why even the modern democracies have been adopting the same system where the judiciary, that is nothing but the courts, have been independent from the legislature and executive. Now they interpret the constitution of the country. The Supreme Court and the High Court have the power to interpret the constitution of the country. If they see that any of the law is against the constitution, they have a power to interpret the constitution. Now what is judicial review? Supreme Court and the High Court can determine the constitutional validity of any legislation or action of the executive in the country when it is challenged before the courts. This is called as judicial review. Here this means that see the laws are prepared where in the legislature. And when the laws have been passed by the legislature, then the implementation job is about the executive. Now executive is doing its implementing job. When that law after implementing comes to the judiciary, and if the judiciary found it to be against the constitution, any law which has been passed by the legislature and implemented by the executive, and if the judiciary found it to be an against the rules of the constitution, then he can challenge that law and can declare that law as a non-valid one. So this is called as the power of judiciary review which the judiciary is enjoying. So here each and everyone is answerable to each other. See, if you have seen, if the legislature is making any law and it is being implemented by the executive, then the judiciary is questioning even the executive how you have implemented such a law, and executive will ask that how the law has been passed in the legislature. So each and everyone is answerable in each level. So this is called as a judicial review where they can challenge the laws which have been made by the legislature and the executive. Now, apart from the above, the judiciary enjoys some other functions like the guardian of the fundamental rights. The judiciary is also known as the guardian of our fundamental rights because they guard our fundamental rights. And if any of our fundamental right has been taken by anyone, then we are the people who just go and knock the door of the judiciary and ask for a justice if any of the law or any of the right has been taken by anyone from us. So here the judiciary enjoys a high level of confidence among the people because they are completely trustworthy towards the judiciary that these are the people who will give us the justice. And it is now the sixth one is the public interest litigation. Anyone can approach the court. If public interest is hurt by any action of the government, then they can directly go to the court. By the government, even if a few people are hurt, then you can knock the door of the court and can ask for the justice. That is the reason why we said that high level of confidence is there by us. We the normal people, the common people, we have a complete confidence on the court that they will definitely provide us the justice, whether we are going against the government in order to complain against the government or in order to complain regarding any of the government that he has taken away the rights of us. We can go. This is they are the house which provides us the justice. Then they prevent the misuse of the government power. Now, how they prevent the misuse of the government power? The courts intervene to prevent the misuse of the power, like the government's power to make the decision. They check the malpractices on the part of the public official. That is why judiciary enjoys a high level of confidence among the people. As I have already told you that in the judicial review, when any of the law has been passed by the government and if it is against the constitutional law which has been hurting the any public officials have been hurt by this, any malpractices have been done just because in favor of this law, then they will definitely catch hold the government and they will ask this law to be invalid one. That is the reason why the judiciary enjoys a high level of confidence among the people. Now, appointment and removal of judge. The judges of Supreme Court and the High Court are appointed by the President on the advice of the Prime Minister, as we have discussed this earlier, and with the consultation with the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court. So, the senior most judge of the Supreme Court is usually appointed by the Chief Justice. Once a person is appointed as a judge of the Supreme Court or High Court, it is nearly impossible to remove him or her from that position. And a judge, if in case if he found to be a guilty one, then only the judge can be removed only by the impeachment motion passed separately by the two-third members of the two houses of the parliament. But this has never happened in the history of the Indian democracy. But what is this impeachment motion? How can the judge be removed? The steps is been explained to you in the next slide. You can understand the very description with a diagram I have explained that how the judges can be removed. What is this impeachment motion? Now let's see how can we remove the judges. To remove the judges is not an easy task. You require a two-third majority of the legislature. Then only a judge can be removed. But after that, even you have a certain procedure that has to be followed. That is the reason why removing a judge is not an easy task. So here the removal motion is signed by the 100 members of Lok Sabha and 50 members of Rajya Sabha. That is the reason why we are saying two-third majority of the houses. This has to be signed and has to be given to the speaker or a chairman. Then the speaker and the chairman may admit the motion which has been signed by the houses and even they may refuse the same. And if it is admitted, then the speaker or the chairman constitutes a three-member committee to investigate the allegation charged against the judge. Why they are removing, what are the charges that have been filed against the judge for which the removal allegation has been signed by this two-third majority. Now who are this three-member committee comprises of? This three-member committee is of the Chief Justice or a senior most judge of the Supreme Court and the Chief Justice of the High Court and the prominent jurist. If the committee find the judge guilty of misbehavior or incapacity, committee submits its reports to the House and matter is taken up for a discussion in the House where it had originally introduced. Where it is, in the Houses. Then irrespective of which House introduced the motion, it should be passed by both the Houses of the Parliament with a special majority. A majority of total membership of that houses and the majority of not less than two-thirds of the member of the house present and voting. The passed motion is addressed to the president for the removal of the judge. Finally, the president passes an order for removing the judge and the judge is removed from the date of assent of the president. So this is the procedure for the removal of the judge. Hierarchy of the judiciary in India, how the judiciary in India is in a hierarchical way. So as you know that the Constitution of India is the supreme legal document of the country and there are the various level of judiciary in India and different types of court. They form a very strict hierarchy. Like on the top level we have the Supreme Court of India and then just below the Supreme Court we have the High Court irrespective of the state with the district judges sitting in the district court and the magistrate of the second class, that is the civil court, civil judge at the junior division, and at the bottom you have the courts that hear the criminal and the civil cases including the disputes between the individual and the government. So this is what the hierarchy of the judiciary. In the next slide you can see the diagrammatically it has been shown that how the hierarchy of the judiciary is there in India. Now, after reading that, you can just go through with this hierarchy, and you will understand the what we have discussed in the earlier slide. This is the hierarchy of the judiciary in India, like how the Supreme Court, High Court is there, and the other district courts have been there, where they listen to both the criminal and the civil cases of and the dispute between the individual and the government have been uh, heard, and justice have been given to the people over here, even at the local level, district level, and at the high court level and the high level Supreme Court too.